Before we get into this, my apologies for the lack of uploads. I haven't been particularly well of late. That kind of unwell where you just can't get anything done. Work has been slow too, and lack of, which really hasn't helped matters much. So I've been cracking on with this and thought this may be of value to some people who need to strip, varnish or paint or, the likes. So kind of wood related, in a way, albeit a car part. But this does have 5 layers of high build primer. So this is no small job for any Jack the Ripper, aka stripper for your US beeps. I'd like to say a thank you to a chap. Now in Facebook groups, often people ask which YouTubers do you watch, woodworking channels related, etc. I've never seen my name mentioned before, and a chap called Shane Johnson put my name up there with some other great talent, and I can't tell you what that was, what that did to me. That was a moment that got my arse into gear. That really choked me up. I mean, I haven't seen it before, maybe it's happened before, I don't know, but that small thing changed, a month or two, whatever it was, of time where I just could not get my arse into gear. And I really appreciate that, mate. And thank you, Shane. I have 2 passions in life, woodworking and my car. Like everything I do, I want things to be perfect. Being perfectionist is not a good mistress, I can tell you. You're striving for something that's impossible, but you spend all your day and all your time trying to achieve as close to perfection as possible, just like I do with my car. So I've got, believe it or not, I've got 2 sets of bumpers, front and rear, for when some arsehole in the supermarket drives their car or trolley into the rear, or the other issue of my car. I believe I can. I don't have an SUV, I've got an MX-5, it's a little MX-5. It's low to the ground like 100 mil, so it sees everything, every stone chip. Whilst I was doing this bumper, I thought to myself, do you know what, actually the strippers are, this stuff will strip just about anything off, apart from powder coated alloy wheels, I can tell you that for sure. It will strip varnish paint really quickly. A lot of people out there and in the groups will say Nitromors is the dog's bollocks. It's absolute shite in comparison to this stuff. It couldn't strip the colour off a penny, and this gear does the job, trust me. I like my car to look like a show car, so I really want a wet look, a deep gloss, so I do flow coat my car. So that's 2 coats of clear, scratch that back with sandpaper, and then shoot 2 more coats of clear. So that's 4 coats of very high build clear on to the bumper, so it's very easy to get off the bumper by scraping it off, hence why I'm down to the primer and just sanding through what's left of the base coat here. Gotta remind you, that's 5 coats of primer on that. Those were the days when I really didn't know what I was doing when it came to primer. I thought the more primer I have, the more I can make sure it's absolutely flat, so when it comes to polishing it, it looks nice and perfect. So whilst it's hot and not much work to do, might as well replace the chipped bumpers with new painted ones, and hence this video and me showing you this stripper. Now for the safety nerds, those really boring people that go, you should be doing it like this, you should do that, oh, fuck off. Look, I'm in a big barn. I've got 2 big barn doors behind me blowing the wind straight past me. I can't even smell this shit. But if you're going to be doing this in, say, a bathroom or some small space, you better have a respirator on. And if you're careless and you, unlike me, you're going to probably get this in your hands and it's going to burn your hands. Not massively. It feels like, how can I put it, really cold water's hit your hands, then you know it's in your hands, you go and wash it off, end of story, it's no big deal. But the fumes in this, if you're buying this from somewhere like Spray Guns Direct or anywhere, you'll have to sign a contract waivering that you do realise what you're dealing with here. It's that kind of proper dirty stripper, which we all want. Up to you what you do, your choice. The best way I've found to get the stripper to work quite well, especially on this much paint, is to put a coat on, leave it 5 minutes, then stipple what's on there with the paintbrush like I'm doing here, and give that 5 minutes, kind of just helps it get in there a bit more, and then come back and put another thin coat over the top of it, and then just leave it In this case, probably took about 30-40 minutes to do its job. If you're going to put this on varnish, man, it's really going to take a matter of a minute. It really eats that stuff, but this has got quite a thickness to go through. I've applied the stripper and left the building basically to let it do its stuff. Left the camera rolling, let that suck up fumes. If you're going to stand there and do one part and then move on to the next part and work that way, you do need a respirator. I shit you not. Trust me on this. I kid you not, it has taken lives. And you do have to sign a contract wavering you know what you're doing with this gear. It's that kind of stripper. Interesting though, it's lovely to watch it strip. It's interesting. As strippers go, this is probably a bit more like a burlesque kind of stripper, if you call it burlesque stripper. Quite frankly, I'm not having that. And there you go, pretty much falls off, as you would hope from a stripper. I can hear some of you cringing, me using a metal scraper on a plastic bumper. That was all I had. What I didn't show you, because the battery died on the camera, after scraping off the majority, I hit it with another thin coat and the rest just fell off, which is what you want from a stripper. Get your kit off, let's see, nice. So that's just a case of clean it up, kit it up for primer. For those of you wondering what the outcome was with this bumper and where I fucked up, I did film and edit it, and that film will be after the end screen if you fancy watching it. Though some good news, some wood I milled some time ago, I took to a friend's so he can dry it for me, and that's ready, so I should be able to get back into some wood making pretty shortly, so return to the normal. I always leave work like this to the summer when it's nice and hot. If you're doing this, the sun quickly dries the waste, which obviously I'm jet washing off, so I can walk away and the sun will dry that out and I can sweep it up and no harm to any wildlife happen. Just smash it all in the bin. You need to consider this. Yes, the water does neutralise it as far as I know. There's dogs on this property that I love to bits too, and I wouldn't want anything happening to them, so no, rest assured I didn't just leave the shit lying around, and hence why I'm doing it up against the wall, so what does fly off is hitting that as much as possible. Now it's just a case of rubbing that down and getting all that leftover shit off and keying it up for primer. More on this after the end screen, as I said. There will be a few tips and tricks that I have found come into my woodworking life from learning how to do all of this stuff. Might be of interest to you.
So impressed, I bought the company.
That's all she wrote, really.
Our final exam will be coming up at the end of this week. The test will be comprised of 20% written, 30% oral, and 50%...
Straight off the bat, this wasn't going well. You can see me holding the camera there. Well, an iPhone, let's call it a camera. And as far as I know, I've hit record. And I'm really doing my best trying to keep the camera in focus and, not concentrating on exactly what I'm spraying. So this didn't go well anyway. So unfortunately, you didn't get to see that footage because I never hit record. Worse still, though, I did use 180 grit sandpaper on these bumpers, so I'm seeing these scratches, which is a fucking nightmare, to be honest with you. What I did here was basically knock it back with some 400, 600 grit and coat of primer, and then sand it back and hope those scratches don't come through again, the primer, and pretty much, well, I'll let you see. And this second time round, obviously, I did actually press record. Idiot. I'm just gunning on one coat of a very high build primer onto this bumper because it's already had a little bit of a piss coat. I'm quite prone to cutting through the primer to the bumper, and whenever painting anything like this, less paint is best. But we'll talk about that later when it comes to the clear coat. There really is something satisfying about spraying paint I don't know quite how to explain it, but when you're gunning that down and it all goes nice and smooth, your overlaps are perfect, your distances, but it's very satisfying. If you ever fancy it, a good starter gun is the FLG5. I've got 4 of them. I think they're that good. You may have seen me before trying to block, sand a Coopered seat and make sure that everything's nice and flat and smooth. And I used a technique where I'd use some spray paint over it, and it will show the low points and the high points. This is exactly where I learned that from. And this is just basically like a chalk dust that I add a bit of water to and just rub it over. Now when you hit that with the sandpaper, you see your low points and your high points. Once all that's gone, it's pretty much flat. I still go probably another one pass more. Who knows why this happens, but sometimes you get pinholes in the primer, so fill them and then hit it with a bit more primer with the minigun. That's what I do, and sand that back to the same grit. That's important with a metallic paint because it will really grin at you and show if you haven't sanded to the same grit. And there you go, that's me just with water over the primer, nice glossy. Now I'd love to have taken you into the booth for this part. No way, not with the camera and the lenses. This is over the top. Normally you wouldn't need to mask up like this, but the inside of that bump is filthy dirty, so I'm sealing that off. And now it's to lay the base coat down. And that went on fucking beautifully. I do say so myself. Fuck's sake. Yeah, no problems. No water in the airline, nothing. Really laid down beautifully. This is the clear coat I use. It's a German brand. VHS means it's not a cassette tape. It's very high, solid. So damn man, that stuff goes down thick. I definitely can't have a camera in there and spray that and show you that, but that's off the gun finish. Not too bad, apart from those couple of little bits of shit that flew out of the gun. Actually came out of the gun, believe it or not. Yeah, so there's problem number 1. But look at that gloss off the gun. That's pretty flat. You know, most people would go, no, that's fine. Don't cut and buff that. Not me. I'm not going to flow coat this. I just shot 3 coats of this VHS clear because I'm being lazy, because this is kind of the backup bumper, as it were. This goes on the car. Oh, if you get a run in paint or varnish or anything, here's a little trick to sort it out, albeit I don't do a very good job of it. It's not something that happens to me very often, to be honest with you, but here's what I do, because it's very easy to cut through clear coat, even VHS clear coat, and rub back through to the base or primer, and that's a ball ache. I mean, that's pretty much start again. Try and do a better job than I do here. I put way too much on and caused myself more work than I needed to do, but basically from the ridge of that run, put filler, and on the other side, from the ridge of the run, put filler. So that supports the sandpaper, and you just literally are just taking off the top of that run. Albeit I had filler to remove as well. Whilst that filler is drying, let's address this little problem. It kind of happened quite coincidentally, but I found a polish that says it should get rid of 600 and 800 grit scratches. I shit you not. So anyway, I'm using 600 grit paper there.
Holy Jesus. What is that?
Sir, jelly donuts, sir!
A jelly donut? How did it get here? Is chow allowed in the barracks, Private Pie? Are you allowed to eat jelly donuts, Private Pie?
Because I was hungry, sir!
One thing about polishing, I don't think a lot of people really understand. The polishing pad, I'd probably say, does about 75% of the work. So it's important that pad doesn't get clogged to with compound. I mean, very little compound. The compound is almost like a lubricant as such. But anyway, when it comes to doing your edges like this, you notice that polishing pad is spinning clockwise and it's coming off the edge, and I'm dishing that polisher, let's call it, so the returning edge isn't hitting that edge. That's key to not cutting through your edge. If I dish the sander the other way, you'll be straight through that paint in a blink of an eye, in a nanosecond.
Proper
Your polish is spent basically when it goes pretty much transparent. The whiteness is gone, and that's time to wipe off and hit it again. You should have your polisher at a very low speed, so the compound has more time to do its work. And here's the products I use. I'm torn between that 3M and the 610. The 610 cuts pretty good, especially with a brand new pad. I can't tell the difference between the 240 and the 3000 final finish of the men's earner. They don't have any fillers in them. There's nothing worse than polishing. You think you've done a really good job, and then you wipe it off with alcohol and the scratches come back because of the polish you're using has got fillers in it, and it's hiding all those scratches from you. For shits and giggles, one of these photographs was cut and buffed to 3000 compound, and one was cut and buffed to the raw 610. Which photo, left or right, do you think went to the 3000? Just curious, because I don't think I can tell. I did my best to keep the camera and the bumper in the same position, but the lighting slightly moved. I'm not sure what went wrong, but so try and be, it's the best comparison as possible. I honestly don't think the human eye can really tell the difference. And if you ever think about trying to do this, you need to think about this. Shrink back, it is a problem. You need to make sure shit is cured. And that clear coat, it's a bit of a waste, yeah, I know, but I can just about get the needle of the spray gun in between that cup and that clear. That's quite a lot of shrink back. Make sure shit's cured before you paint. Hockey, anyone? Watch what happens to this clear coat. After about 4 hours. I'm glad I don't put that much clear on my car, because that's what it can look like. Bad. And there's the finished bumper, despite all those issues. Oh, it needs, cleaning up, and diffuser attaching to it. I'm stuck on the car and the old one pulled off.